We'll get back. Anyway, good morning once again. And see, like what I was trying to tell you, as a homeopathic student, you will have, I mean, as a homeopathic teacher, I have heard many of the students having this complaint. And what was the complaint that we were trying to address today is majority of the remedies, they look very, very similar. And they find a lot of confusion remembering, studying these remedies. So if you understand each remedy in a systematic way, then I don't think the question of remedies being similar comes up. And that's what I was also trying to share with you. Now, the main objective of a homeopathic student or a homeopathic practitioner is to individualize a case. And to individualize a case, we understanding the remedy is very, very important. And no two remedies will be alike. Each remedy will have something unique, something characteristic in it, which Dr. Hanuman has spoken to us in aphorism 153. So what I was trying to tell you is, if you look at the slide which I'll be just sharing, I've tried to show you a small image. And in this image, when you read a materia medica, when you read a drug in our materia medica, for many students, the drug looks similar. Like I've shown you some white things behind. For majority of you, it looks similar. But what is the main objective of teaching a remedy is you will understand that each remedy will be unique, will be different in its own way. So we have students coming to us and telling, sir, the sphere of action, the ailments, the mentals, the particulars of majority of the remedies, they look similar, sir, and we get confused. Okay. So addressing this very important problem of yours, we will try to take up a remedy, and with the help of a remedy, we will try to understand how each remedy will be different. Okay. So for example, I was trying to tell you, I'll start with a very nice remedy, probably one of the best remedies in our materia medica. Okay. See, now the best and nice also depends upon the teacher who is teaching you. Okay. And the way you understand the remedy, that also depends. Fine. I mean, even a very rare remedy can be taught in a very nice way, and that class can be made interesting. But fast is one remedy without which a homeopath practice will not be complete. As a practitioner, I use in my clinic this particular remedy very often. So I personally feel you students having a very good understanding of this remedy will help you in your clinical practice tomorrow. Okay. So now coming back to the problem that we all have, or what you have been facing. I'll start with a sphere of action. See, when you look at the sphere of action of phosphorus, okay, now what you understand from the sphere of action is phos is a remedy which is a polycrest remedy which belongs to the mineral source, and it is a very deep acting remedy. Now, these keywords, deep acting, polycrest, it gives you a lot of inputs about what exactly phosphorus can do acting on our body. Today, I'll be trying to focus on the sphere of action and the pathogenesis of phosphorus. Now, first very important thing, when you look at phosphorus, this is a remedy which has main action on the mucous membrane. Now, when I use the word mucous membrane here, from the knowledge of your anatomy, you should know where all we have mucous membrane. This is very, very important. And from the knowledge of physiology, you should know what is the function of this mucous membrane. And from the knowledge of your pathology, you should know if there is some derangement in the function, what could be the probable pathology that can come up. The action of a remedy depends upon its affinity. Now, when I talk to you about affinity, as a third year student, I am trying to bring in, or I'm trying to bring in your attention towards the knowledge of miasms. Miasm is one thing which will decide what a remedy can do acting on different parts of the body. For example, if you look at mucous membrane, you can expect three very important actions of a remedy on the mucous membrane. It can either give rise to inflammation, or it can either give rise to a growth, or it can give rise to an ulcer. Based on the miasmatic background or miasmatic affinity of a remedy, if the remedies are very superficial, okay, for example, if you have remedies like aconate can act on mucous membrane and it can give rise to inflammation. Or if you have some deeper remedies, like remedies which have a capacity to produce growth, like for example, you have thuja, you have medorinum. Same remedy acting on the mucous membrane, it can give rise to polyp growth. Or if the remedy is more deeper, if it is more deeper in the miasmatic affinity, if it is more syphilitic, then these remedies can give rise to ulceration. For example, you have sulfur, you have myrrh, you have phosphorus, you have arsenic. These are few remedies. Based on the miasmatic affinity, they can go to the extent of ulceration. So what I'm trying to explain here is, a remedy which is short acting, acting on the mucous membrane, can produce inflammation. A remedy which is more deeper and it has got a psychotic affinity, acting on the mucous membrane, it can produce growth. And a remedy which is more deeper, more syphilitic, can give rise to ulcerations. I hope I am clear. If you have any queries, please feel free to answer, so that this concept is clear and it will help you in clarifying majority of your doubts. So for example, allium cepa, if you just say, it is more sorosyphilitic. The discharges are acrid and it can give rise to superficial ulcers. But when you're talking of frank ulcers, deep ulcers, allium cepa will not work, because that is the affinity of the remedy. It is not purely syphilitic, it is sorosyphilitic. I hope I am clear. So I'll not talk more about this, but I just want you to understand that remedy based on its miasmatic affinity can bring in a lot of changes. So phosphorus acting on the mucous membrane of the GIT, okay, especially the stomach mucosa, it can either give rise to inflammation. Phosphorus is soric, phosphorus is psychotic, and phosphorus also has a syphilitic trait. All the three miasms you have in phosphorus. So if they come to you at a storic state, you can have inflammations. If they come to you coming to you at a psychotic level, you will generally see some polyps, gastric polyp or mucosal polyp, nasal polyp, laryngeal polyps. Or if they come to you at the level of syphilitic stage, then you can see in ulcers, gastric ulcers, cancer of stomach. Phosphorus is a beautiful remedy. So acting on the mucous membrane, it will cause inflammation, it can cause gastralgias, it can cause indigestion, it can cause vomiting. So this is the first action of phosphorus on the mucous membrane of GIT. Continuing with GIT, not only stomach, this remedy also has an affinity for various other gastric organs. Like for example, it can also affect the intestines. The mucosa of the intestines can be affected and it can give rise to lot of inflammatory complaints. Fine. Like for example, you have ulcerative colitis. FOS is a beautiful remedy. Or you have got a simple colitis, inflammation. And symptomatically, it can give rise to diarrhea. We'll talk of diarrhea a little later, but it can give rise to diarrhea. Again, a very good remedy acting on liver. So now again, when I talk of liver, you have remedies like chelidonium, you have remedies like nux vomica, sulfuric acid, a lot of remedies acting on liver. Now, which pathology, which remedy you prescribe also becomes very, very important. Chelidonium mainly causes inflammation. Chelidonium cannot be prescribed for syphilitic affections of liver. Okay, so syphilitic affections of liver, for example, cancer, cancer, and all, we don't think of chelidonium. We'll go for higher remedies. So chelidonium pathology will limit to hepatitis, will limit to hepatomegaly, or it might limit to jaundice, not beyond that. I hope I'm clear. Now, what happens in phosphorus? Phosphorus is more deeper. Here you can see inflammation. Naturally, inflammation is must. That's the primary thing. Then you can also see hepatomegaly, and then you can also see cirrhosis, fatty degeneration of liver. All these things you see phosphorus getting indicated. Okay, a very important remedy for jaundice. We'll talk of that a little later. It's action on spleen, splenomegaly, or congestion in spleen. Okay, and kidneys. Okay, now kidneys again, phosphorus being a deep acting remedy, you will see inflammation. There can be nephritis. Then you can also see destruction. Like for example, you can see kidney renal failure. Phos being a beautiful remedy there. So a simple pathology like inflammation to cyst, to growth, and to destruction, you see phosphorus getting indicated, because phos has sora, phos has psychosis, and phos has syphilitic manifestations. Done. Now heart. Phos is a very beautiful constitution, very lovable constitution, and one weak organ of phosphorus will be his heart. Okay, like for example, many anginal affections, many anxieties related to heart, or fatty degeneration of heart, one can think of phosphorus. Now many of you know phosphorus from your pharmacy knowledge, or from your therapeutic knowledge, that phos is a great bleeder. It acts on the blood, it acts on the cardiovascular system, and it will cause bleeding. Fine. So this is something that you'll see here in this slide. Acting on the blood, it causes destruction of the RBCs, and it in turn, the end product might be anemia. Okay, so one of the top remedies for hemolytic anemia. Anemia, again, from your physiology, from your pathology knowledge, you have different types of anemias. Okay, phosphorus generally gets indicated in hemolytic anemia. Fine, and yeah, you see a lot of bleedings, purpural bleedings. The platelets can get affected. A beautiful remedy for dengue, phosphorus. Okay, not a specific, but one of the indicated remedies for dengue. So what I'm trying to tell you here is different remedies acting on the same organ can have different effect. That's what I want you to understand as a homeopathic student. Okay, so we'll go ahead. You'll get more clarity as we continue with the remedy. Now, male genitalia and female genitalia are two areas again you see phosphorus acting. Now, initially acting on the male genitalia, phosphorus causes excitement, sexual excitement. So you see increased sexual desire in phosphorus. Later, as a secondary effect, there is impotency. So sexual excitement followed by impotency is the effect of phosphorus on male, and on female, this being a hemorrhagic remedy, you see, first, as a third year student, you should know this. You have gynec as a subject. You know a lot of hemorrhagic conditions like menorrhagia, metorrhagia, dubious. cancer, polyps, you see phosphorus getting indicated. Okay. Bones, yes, is a polycrest. It has any organ you name in your body, you have phosphorus acting on all these organs. Bones, a beautiful remedy for caries, osteomyelitis. See again, you will have to understand. You might be knowing symphytum, you might be knowing asafoetida, you might be knowing calcareous, you might be knowing silicea. Offline class we could have had a nice interaction, but in an online class interaction might become a little difficult. But what you need to understand, focusing on the class today, bones we have different remedies, and you should also slowly try to understand when each remedy gets indicated in bone affections. Okay, you should know when symphytum, when ruta, when silicea, when phosphorus, when merc. Okay, when restox, all these things you should know. If time permits, we'll try to go into the details. I'll try to give you some comparison. But phos is such deep acting remedy that it can give rise to necrosis. See, this reminds me of phosphorus being used in industries. It is used in matchbox and fire industry basically. And I was reading, going through the literature. Literature says phosphorus poisoning can cause necrosis of the jaw. Phosphorus poisoning can give rise to necrosis of jaw. I hope you understand how deep the action of phosphorus is, that it can cause necrosis of bones. Okay. Similarly, its action on the mucous membrane of the respiratory tract. When we unfold the particular symptoms, you will realize that FOS is one of the top remedies acting on the upper and lower respiratory tract. So it could be as simple as coryza, it could be cough, or it could be pneumonia, it could be tuberculosis. Phosphorus can get indicated. Okay. Now the last physiological action I want you to remember is the nervous system, cerebrospinal system. First is one remedy which has a capacity to act on the brain, the spinal cord, and the various nerves. Now many of them they say what iron, like ferrum, is to blood, phosphorus is to nerves. Meaning, an ingredient of phosphorus is very important in the formation and in the normal functioning of the nervous system. So, phos acting on the nervous system, it can cause simple neuritis, or it can cause something as serious as paralysis or convulsions. Okay. Now, before I take the next component of phosphorus, now what was my main idea here is I wanted you to understand that you also have Nux vomica, you also have arsenic amal, you also have allium cepa, euphrasia, different remedies acting on the mucous membrane, on the nerves, on the male genitalia, on the liver, etc. etc. But each remedy, based on its miasmatic influence, brings in different complaints. That is what I wanted to make very, very clear. And I hope things are clear. So, quickly, if at all you have any doubts related to what I am trying to explain, you please ask, because this is a very important component. And I personally feel you have to understand this so that the further class of phos or further materia medica concept becomes very easy to understand. So if you have any quick questions related to what we have spoken, I'll be happy to take up the questions. Any questions? One second, let me go back to the chat box. Yes, if at all have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have no questions, and if my explanation is clear, we'll move ahead with the next component of phosphorus. So here we have mainly spoken about which part of a body phosphorus acts and what exactly phosphorus produces. Similia similibus currenter. So when I say what phosphorus can produce and what it has produced, it means to say if indicated, phosphorus can cure all these conditions like fatty degeneration of heart, fatty degeneration of liver, paralysis, anemia, menorrhagia, metorrhagia, if phosphorus gets indicated. Now that is what we'll be trying to take up a little while later. Now what are the indications of phosphorus? We'll systematically take it up after some time. Now, if you're all clear, if there are no doubts, I'm happy you've got no doubts to ask. We will take up another area. Now, I was talking to you. See, today's main focus is individualization. I was talking to you about each of us, how we are different. Some might be short, some might be tall, some might be dark, some might be fat, some might be thin. They're all different individuals. And the fact homeopathy is based on this particular concept that we are all different. Now, how is phosphorus different as a constitution? Physically, how is phosphorus different? Now, phosphorus should come to your mind, or at least as a third year student, you should think of phosphorus when you see somebody really tall. Okay, there are many remedies which are tall. I'll come to the list of those remedies a little later. First is one such remedy who is really tall. So tall, they're very slender, they're thin, narrow-chested persons, and they look very handsome. You know, with all those delicate, long eyelashes, fine, and uh, children who grow very rapidly. You would have seen a boy 3 months back, and after 3 months you see him, and then you see that there's a huge difference in his height. Children who grow too fast. Can I quickly have some remedies from your side? Which are all the other remedies, homeopathic remedies, who are tall for their age, or which are the other remedies that you can think of? Some quick inputs from your side. Remedies who are tall. Very good. One of your friends says sepia. Done. Could be sepia. Fine. We'll talk of sepia. Yeah. Let me get more inputs. Which are all the other remedies? Who are tall. Who are tall. Only sepia. Very good. Beautiful. Aisha, Gautami, and Ashraf. Yeah. There are few students. Purnatej. Good. There are few students who are coming out with their inputs. See now, calcarea first, beautiful, absolutely right. Calcarea first, phosphoric acid, calcarea carb itself, creosotum, magnesium phos. It also has phosphorus element in it. These are all few constitutions who are very very tall. Okay, so tall constitutions. One remedy definitely that should come to your mind is phosphorus. Good. Now we'll go ahead. That was the physical appearance of phosphorus, which is very important. Now we'll look at the ailments of phosphorus. Okay. Here again, when I talk to you about tobacco, many remedies having tobacco as an ailment. Now this is again, I'm trying to individualize phosphorus. When a phosphorus patient has bad effects of tobacco, or when he's a smoker, which is that organ or which is that structure that gets affected in phosphorus? Which is that structure phosphorus is more susceptible to is what we are trying to focus. See, when you look at ailments from tobacco, fine, ailments from tobacco, you got many remedies. It could be arsenic, it could be caladium, it could be naxvomica, it could be many, many remedies, many other remedies. Now, what happens in phosphorus? What happens in phosphorus? A person who has been abusing tobacco, and then if you look at the second image that I've tried to show you, if they go into blindness. I hope I am clear. Bad effects of tobacco in phosphorus will give rise to blindness. Now, this is the individualistic approach or individualistic effect of phosphorus because of tobacco. I hope I'm clear. I'm repeatedly making sure that you're trying to follow what I'm trying to give you. So tobacco, you got many remedies. Nuts might have a different affection. Arsenic, selenium, caladium, they all might have, tobacco itself might have a different affection in phosphorus. Because of bad effects of tobacco, they will have blindness. The optic nerve gets affected and a person going blind. Two more remedies should come to your mind: Nux vomica and arsenicum. Okay, tobacco, mental exertion. Mental stress or mental exertion, what exactly happens in phosphorus? Each constitution might react in a different way. In phosphorus, mental exertion gives rise to a bad anxiety, or mental exertion can give rise to confusion. So, ailments from, I am just not stopping ailments from tobacco. I am going a step ahead and I'm trying to give you what happens because of tobacco in phosphorus. If you can understand this, my effort will be fruitful. Mental exertion, yes, you also have caliphos, you have nexvomica, you have picric acid, you have got a lot of remedies. But in phosphorus, what is the result of mental exertion? Mental exertion giving rise to anxiety, mental exertion giving rise to confusion. Now, strong emotions, ailments from emotions, you have it in phosphorus. Now, what exactly the emotions in phosphorus lead to? Okay, so in phosphorus, you will have to understand emotions bring on menstrual irregularities. There will be excess flow. So when a lady is menstruating and then there is an emotion, so she continues to bleed more. Okay, so that is phosphorus. See, we had two nice cases very recently, challenging cases very recently of a young girl, 22, 23 years, who is a known case of PCOD, and then she went into prolonged menses. And we also had a lady during her menopause, 45, 46. She also went into a prolonged menses. So two different cases, and the two different cases were approached with two different remedies, and a remedy was prescribed. So this lady, the menopause attaining lady, she was given calcarea carb based on a different totality, and the young girl, 22, she was given China. So what I'm trying to tell you is, we don't have a specific model here. We don't have a specific remedy here. That lady required calcarea and she improved beautifully with calcarea. And this girl required what China, and she improved with China. So phosphorus has its own indications is what I am trying to make it very clear. Okay, so in phosphorus, emotions can bring in continuous menses and getting wet. We got plenty of remedies, as simple as alimsipa, as simple as pulsatilla, restox, dulcamara, plenty of remedies. If you go back to my dulcamara lecture, getting wet in dulcamara was a different phenomena that happened in dulcamara. Now, what happens in phosphorus? See, phosphorus basically, after getting wet, they either land up with headache or the extremities go weak. Weakness of extremities. What is the problem? Yeah, are things clear? Again, we have issues with the screen. What is the problem? Why screen is not getting? Are you able to see the screen? I'll just try sharing it again. No, the technical issues, but anyway, we have to adjust and manage. 1 second, we'll reconnect. I'll just get back.